Support for this episode is provided by TotalBoat. Visit TotalBoat.com and get inspired to build your next project. Welcome back to the shop. This is the project that I'll be building in this video. It's an open console. You can see it has a painted interior with adjustable shelves. The outside of the cabinet is veneered with Rift-Sawn wire brushed white oak veneer from GL Veneer. And if you want to learn more about this veneer, I'll have a link to it in the description below. The cabinet sits on a tapered base to give it that sleek, modern look, and I'll get into the details on how to create this sharp paint line, along with everything you need to know on how to veneer. Now let's go ahead and get to work. I'm building this cabinet out of 3/4 inch birch plywood, and I'll get started by ripping the parts to width on the table saw. I like to rip the parts a little bit heavy at first, and then I'll trim them to exact size once the parts are lighter and easier to handle. Now I'll use the crosscut sled and cut all the parts to size. Okay, now I've got most of the parts of the cabinet cut to size. The sides, the cabinet dividers, and the top and bottom. I've taken a little time to divide the top and bottom into 3 equal compartments, and now I'm going to pre-drill and countersink holes so I can screw the parts together. I'll drill small pilot holes through the inside of the cabinet and then flip the plywood over and countersink the holes. Now I can put the parts in position and tack them in place with an 1¼ brad. This just keeps the parts from moving around. I'll use 3 1¾ screws for a stronger connection. Now that I have the cabinet assembled, I'll use a piece of white oak to make molding to cover the end grain of the plywood. Now that I have the molding made, I'll attach it to the outside of the cabinet first. That'll hide the end grain of the plywood. And once the outside of the cabinet is picture framed, I'll add the molding to the 2 cabinet dividers. After adding the molding to the front of the cabinet, I also trimmed out the back of the cabinet in the same way. Because I didn't add a dado to the back of the cabinet to accept the back, I'll attach cleats to each side of the cabinet. And I should also mention that I set the cabinet dividers in 1/2 inch. When I eventually attach the back of the cabinet, I'll attach the back to the 2 cleats on each side and the cabinet dividers in the center. Now that I have the main part of the cabinet finished, I'll move on to painting the inside. First painting the back, then the inside of the cabinet, And I've been using Benjamin Moore's Command now. I like this paint. It's really easy to use. It dries fast, sticks to just about anything. And I'm spraying with the Fuji spray system. It's the Q5, and the gun has a 1.3 tip. While I'm spraying the inside of the cabinet, I'll also get to work on the shelves, first cutting them to size, and then covering the front with the same molding that I used on the cabinet. This cabinet is going to sit on a base that will raise the cabinet off the ground an inch and a half. To build the base, first I'll make a simple frame out of 3/4 inch plywood. This frame is going to be screwed directly to the bottom of the cabinet, so it doesn't need to be that strong, and I can just nail the parts together. To dress the frame up a bit, I'll make some white oak molding with a 7-degree angle and picture frame the outside of the frame. With the base finished, I'll remove the painter's tape from the front of the cabinet and get started on the veneer. I'll cut the veneer to size using a straight edge and a sharp utility knife. I like to cut the veneer 1/2 inch heavier than the surface that I'm applying it to. This will give me a 1/4 inch overhang on all 4 sides that I can trim later with a flush cut bit in the router. While I'm cutting the veneer to size, I'd like to remind you of all the woodworking plans available on my website. With a large variety of furniture projects, shop projects, and outdoor projects, all with free video tutorials right here on YouTube, I'm sure you'll find something that'll inspire you to spend more time in the shop. So I hope that you'll click on the link in the description below and let me help you with your next woodworking project. I've cut the veneer to have the best grain match, so it's kind of a waterfall effect. So this is the one side, which will run into the top, and then this will be the other side, and this leftover is just enough for the shelves. When I veneer a cabinet, I'll start with the 2 sides first. Contact cement only sticks to contact cement, so here you can see that I'm using sticks to elevate the veneer off of the cabinet surface. This allows me to position the veneer before applying pressure to one side and then removing the sticks, applying pressure as I go. Once the 2 sides are veneered and the overhang is trimmed, I'll apply the veneer to the top of the cabinet. I like to apply the contact cement with a mohair roller, and I also like to apply 2 coats. The first coat tends to really absorb into the material, and by adding a second coat once the first coat is dry, I feel like you get a better bond. This is the process that I've been using for probably more than 30 years and have never had a delamination. Now that I have the cabinet veneered and sanded, the next step is the finish. I want to avoid getting any of the clear finish on the inside of the cabinet, and this method of taping out the inside of the cabinet and then cutting a piece of cardboard just a little bit heavier than the opening and fitting it into the cabinet with a friction fit worked really good. I'm finishing this cabinet with one coat of de-waxed shellac sealer, and that does a great job of bringing out the beauty of the grain. And then for durability, I'm spraying the cabinet with 3 coats of Total Boat's Halcyon satin varnish. Okay, well, I'm real happy with the way this project turned out. I hope that you enjoyed the video. This cabinet is going into my wife's office, which is a 10 by 16 shed. I renovated that last year. And if you want to see how the cabinet looks in the office, follow me on Instagram. I should have a few pictures of it up sometime in the next few days. As always, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.